Well, folks, we have a jam-packed show for you today. So many big stories on the eve of the release of Donkey Kong Bonanza. Okay, yeah, there's some people that already have it, Australia, Japan, etc. You guys are probably already having a good time, but you know what? I'll be joining you tomorrow and having a blast as we will be live streaming Donkey Kong Bonanza then. But we have to talk about all the other stories we're going to be getting into here. Out of nowhere, Miyamoto and Nintendo decided to drop the actor and actress who is going to be playing Link and Zelda in the upcoming Zelda movie that comes out in May of 2027. More than that, we have all the review scores are in for Donkey Kong Bonanza. Is it a masterpiece or did Nintendo drop the ball? We'll find out in a moment. More than that, we also have a system update that dropped for the Nintendo Switch 2. We got to talk about it because it's a little bit more than just system stability, which is usually what Nintendo says. There's actually been some key updates to it that might affect the games you are playing right now. Beyond that, we have some updates on some games like Sonic Racing Crossworlds and more. There's a bunch of really cool stuff in this video. Can't wait to dive in, but I want to remind you, we are currently giving away 2 video games of choice. I don't care what platform it's for, be it PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PC, or the Nintendo Switch or Switch 2. You can choose whatever game you want. There'll be 2 winners. The winners will be chosen in the month of August. You can go down to the link in the pinned comment or the description to enter. I wish everybody luck. And let's go ahead and get into our first news. Ba-boom! Zelda movie news. This is Miyamoto. I am pleased to announce that for the live-action film, The Legend of Zelda, Zelda will be played by Bo Bragenson, and Link will be played by Benjamin Evan Ainsworth. I am very much looking forward to seeing both of them on the big screen. The film is scheduled to release in theaters on May 7th, 2027. Thank you for your patience. Now, some of you may not have heard of these people, so let's go over some of their acting accreditations, right? We have IMDb to look at here. This is Bo Bragenson, and as we go down, you can see some stuff that she's been in. The King and the Conqueror, the Radleys, the Jetty, the Renegade. Nell is probably what she is most known for. She was in Censor, Creeped Out, Moving On, Three Girls, etc. She appears to be, I'm not 100% sure, I believe she's 21. I could be wrong about that, of course. When you have actors and actresses that aren't like super famous, sometimes you don't have 100% accurate information on that. Next up, though, we have the person playing Link. His name is Benjamin Evan Ainsworth. This appears to be a slightly older photo of him compared to the one that Nintendo used. He's born in September of 2008, so you can do the math on that, right? That puts him at what, 17, something like that. So perfect age for Link. And he's known for some things such as Everything's Going to Be Great. He's a son of a Critch, which is a Canadian show. That's what he's actually most well known for. Obviously been on 52 episodes. That show does play on the CW here in the US if you haven't seen it yet. I've seen a couple episodes, but I don't know a whole lot about it. Those are the 2 things he's most known for. And then he was also the voice of Pinocchio in the live action. That's maybe the other thing that he was known for. Personally, the first time I remember seeing him recently was actually in The Sandman. I recently rewatched the season 1, season 2, and yeah, he's in The Sandman, so that was kind of cool. Look, I'm really excited for these choices. I'm not going to give a ton of thoughts on those choices right now because personally, I do believe that we have a podcast tonight and all the opinions should be saved for there. But I will say that I am, in general, pleased with these choices. I think they were the right ones. We'll get into all the reasoning and all that tonight when we have a huge discussion on the Zelda movie. It's going to be one of our big topics tonight, so I hope you guys tune into the podcast. Remember, Rogers Base and others are coming on. All right, enough self-promotion of our upcoming show tonight. Let's go ahead and get into a thing we need to pay attention to, especially now that we know certain things thanks to the reviews. Because a guy named Reese Riley, aka Kiwi Talks, who has interviewed hundreds, if not thousands of developers at this point, had some information he put out a while ago about things that were going to be happening in Donkey Kong Bonanza. And now that the game's out there for some people and the reviews are out, we now know some of those things to be correct. I don't want to spoil them for you, even though some of the stuff is actually in the reviews. But yes, certain things he said would be in the game are in fact in the game. So that means he seems to have some pretty credible sources, which is not a surprise when he has interviewed a bunch of developers. And one thing he wanted to talk about is Retro Studios and what they're doing after Metroid Prime 4 And you're going to notice a pattern here because this will be the second time we've heard something about this. I'm seeing people talking about Nintendo's comments about there being a 2D and 3D Donkey Kong going forward as Retro continues with 2D Donkey Kong. No, that's copium. By the way, Nintendo didn't say they were going forward with the 2D and 3D. That's just fans wanting that to happen. Now, he goes on to point out, it's unlikely Retro Studios returns to Donkey Kong again. They were unique circumstances at play to allow them to make the Donkey Kong games. Of course, we're talking about Country Returns and Tropical Freeze. Retro's original existence was to make games for Nintendo that they themselves couldn't make. There are so many internal teams that can make a 2D Donkey Kong game. There is no one other than Retro that can make a Metroid Prime game at the caliber that they make them. I'm not saying they are going to become the Metroid Prime studio. I imagine after Prime 4, they will do Prime 5, then move on to another IP due to franchise fatigue. I'm also not saying that Retro aren't capable. They certainly are, and Tropical Freeze is easily a top 5 2D platformer ever made. But we are in a different era of Nintendo, a different era of Retro. I want to keep everyone's expectations in check here. So what he's saying is, don't expect them to make side-scrolling Donkey Kong. Expect them to actually go right into Prime 5, and then maybe a new project after that before maybe returning the Metroid down the line. I think that that is very smart. I also think it's smart to capitalize on Metroid. Get Metroid Prime 4 out now. Get Prime 5 out, say 2-3 years from now, so they're not too distant from each other. Then nobody's going to expect another Metroid Prime style game until Switch 3, and in between, you can work on a different project. I really think that that makes a lot of sense. If they do side-scrolling Donkey Kong, they do have other teams that could do that. Just like they had a team that could do 3D Donkey Kong. Turns out that team was the 3D Mario team. So that's really exciting. Now, talking about Donkey Kong, of course, is a nice transition to our next story because, of course, Donkey Kong Bananza. It comes out. It's already out for some people. Will be coming out tomorrow. And for everyone else. And look, Donkey Kong Bananza had its review embargo today. And I am happy to report that Donkey Kong Bananza is now tied for the highest reviewed Donkey Kong game of all time. We're over on Metacritic here, where you see it is at a 90. There is not a single negative review of the game, and that is incredible. And just to be fair, because we know Metacritic uses a weighted review system with certain outlets, we can also check out OpenCritic. I like to look at them as well because they do not weight the reviews there. They just take a straight up average, and you can see that it is actually at a 91 on OpenCritic, and as you see in the corner, at their mighty rating. So that is really cool. Obviously, they have less critic reviews counted here. They have a little bit of a stricter, a stricter application to be part of that review. So you could argue that Metacritic is a grander scale of actual aggregate. But hey, 90, 91, either way, both are recommended. Both are stellar. And it sounds like Donkey Kong is literally a must-play experience. I can't miss. Maybe the first true banger to drop on literally the Nintendo Switch 2. So that sounds really exciting. I can't wait to play. I could dive into all the details and some of the stuff we learned from the reviews, but let's be honest, some of you guys are in countries right now where you're already able to play. Some of you maybe are getting your Amazon or Target or Best Buy or Walmart deliveries early to your house. And the rest of us, a bunch will be playing tonight digitally. So what's the point of going over all those new details? That might have been more relevant for a preview, but for review purposes, when it's the night before or the day before, you know what? I don't think I need to go over those details because we're all about to find out firsthand. So I'm really excited for Donkey Kong Bananza. And again, I will be live streaming it tomorrow. I don't have a time for that yet. I'll figure that out. Sometime tonight, I'll come to a decision when I'm going to start my Donkey Kong Bananza live stream tomorrow. Now, one of the biggest games on Nintendo Switch 2 currently from third parties is Cyberpunk 2077. And it has a huge update coming to all platforms, including Switch 2, although it won't be at Switch 2 right away, probably because, hey, they were spending all this time porting it over rather than working on this update. But we got to go over it quick because it was announced today. Update 2.3 arrives with screeching tires tomorrow on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. There'll be new vehicles, auto drive, Delamain taxis will take care of your transportation needs, and that's not all. Even more freedom in the photo mode, FSR 3.1 support, and availability on Macs with Apple Silicon, and just a few of the new features added to the game. Scope out the complete patch notes right here, and I'll link to those patch notes below because, look, there's a lot of stuff in here. We could be here for like a half hour going over it all. A lot of it's just bug fixes, but also just general improvements in gameplay. The update will also be hitting Switch 2 at a later date, so stay tuned for more deets. Again, makes a lot of sense because they probably spent most of their development time over the last year working on the Switch 2 version of the original game, not this patch. But I am glad to see the patches coming over. They're not just abandoning the Switch 2 version, not day and date, but hey, it's year one of Switch 2. That's what happens. Now, Nintendo's next game after Donkey Kong Bonanza that they're trying to hype up is Drag and Drive. Now, look, I know a lot of people might not be excited about the game, but I will say this, Nintendo is giving all of us an opportunity to play the game at home if you own a Switch 2 before it comes out. Because they're doing what's essentially a global test fire like they do for Splatoon. Over here, Nintendo of America announced here that eager to hit the court in Drag and Drive, get a sneak peek with Drag and Drive Global Jam Demo Event. This event takes place on August 9th and 10th exclusively on Switch 2 for Nintendo Switch Online members. So you do have to be an NSO member. You had to be that way for some of the old global test fires as well. You can see that it is taking place at 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. Pacific. I believe that is 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. my time in Central, and then 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific, or for me, 7 to 11 p.m. Maybe we do a live stream of that. We'll see. And then on the 10th, it is 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific, or for me, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I am really excited about this. It's an opportunity for people to try the game. I know some people got to try it in person, and that either made them excited for it or it got them to not want to play it. But I'm just happy they're giving us a chance to play it. Obviously, this is for a server stress test. Remember, the game, I believe, is $20. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see if that demo convinces people to buy it or not. Hopefully, all of you get an opportunity to check it out because you might as well. It's a $20 game. So just give it a try and see if it's something you want to buy. Now, we got to move into an update to Switch 2, a firmware update. You might have already downloaded it. Sometimes it's automatic. But there was a firmware update for Switch 2. And let's go over the patch notes and some details about this. First, coming from Universal Nintendo over here, since Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch firmware updated the versions 20.2. So both platforms getting updated. Here are the actual notes. So it's general, we fixed an issue that prevented parental control settings from transferring from Switch to Switch 2 under certain circumstances during a console transfer. They fixed an issue that was not possible to proceed beyond searching for networks and internet settings in system settings. I haven't had this problem, but some people obviously have. And general console stability improvements to enhance the user experience. So that seems all fine. That's for Switch 2. Pretty much the same fixes on the original Switch, minus the searching for networks problem, right? Now, you would think that that's it, but as you know, there's always additional things, and that's where we go over to Oatmeal Dome, and this is where you get the really cool stuff. The version 20.2.0 fixes some problems with Switch 1 backwards compatibility. I can personally confirm that Portal 2 no longer crashes after updating. If you have some problematic games, update your console and try them out. So, that is really awesome. Look, obviously we can just only confirm the Portal 2 stuff here from Oatmeal Dome, but the point is that this update does actually fix some of the issues with backwards compatibility with some Switch 1 games for Switch 2. That to me is always nice to see, and we're not really done with that because there's other updates going on while this is happening, including an update to Super Mario 3D All-Stars. They got updated to version 1.1.3, which improves gameplay on Switch 2. It says it right here. Several issues have been addressed to improve gameplay. The software update is required to play on Switch 2. So again, it makes it better on Switch 2. Obviously, I haven't tried it out yet, so I'm not sure what those differences are, but that's pretty sweet. Now, there's other things we have to talk about when it comes to Switch 2, and some of that has to do with third-party games. And one of the third-party games we know is coming over is 007 First Light. And the developers behind it have given an update talking about the difficulties of porting it to Switch 2, or maybe the lack thereof. So IO Interactive Director says it was quite easy to bring 007 First Light to Switch 2, promises Hitman performance update. So the quote is right here. It comes from the director, Jonathan LaCalle, and he talks about this stuff over on Video Game Chronicle. First of all, we have an amazing engine, the Glacier engine, and one of its strengths is why we love to keep using it at IO Interactive. It's that it enables us to bring a game to as many platforms as possible with limited friction. So in that aspect, it's quite easy for us as long as there's a new platform coming out to bring a game on it. As far as the Switch 2 goes, Nintendo has always been a great partner with us. We have brought Hitman as a cloud version on the first Switch, and now with Switch 2, it is a powerful device. Powerful enough for us to bring First Light to it natively. He also responds to criticism of the Switch 2 version and Hitman with its frame rate issues. Here's what he said. So for Hitman, the team is working on some of those performance issues right now, and they are addressing it over the summer. So basically a patch will be coming to address performance issues on Switch 2. It's, of course, good learning for us to bring over First Light as well. So all of this will be learnings we bring to the next title. It's the first game we released on that platform, and it was a good test. The team is looking at all of that feedback and acting on it as we speak. Now, the exact date for the Hitman update was not provided, but still, it's just nice to see that they really didn't seem to have problems porting over First Light, and any of the information and the feedback they're learning from Hitman being there, they're going to take some of that, they're going to fix the frame rate, and they're going to apply that to First Light. So I like that they're taking this stuff seriously. And you know what I also love? When third parties take things seriously, that there's been a lot of reactions for a while now about game key cards and how much they're kind of being rejected by the market. I don't really know if it's being rejected on a global scale, but at least here in the United States, they're not very popular, and it appears Sega is paying attention. Today, Sega confirmed the Switch 2 edition of Sonic Racing Crossworlds will come on a 64GB cart with the full base game on it. It is not a key card release, and as Stealth 40K notes here, friend of the channel, perhaps they are starting to change their stance. Oh, baby, that's what we like to see. Another full physical game. It feels weird that we even have to celebrate this, but we do, because the more and more these games sell, the physical versions, the more and more companies will be convinced to keep using the physical version. Now, I do understand there are certain circumstances where a physical version is kind of irrelevant. Let's say Call of Duty's 120 gigabytes. A 64GB cartridge isn't going to fix the fact that you have to download a crap load of stuff to play the game. In situations like that, I can almost understand and even excuse the use of a game keycard. However, any game that could fit fully the normal version without DLC on the actual 64GB cartridge should use it. So again, I think game key cards are okay in circumstances where your base game cannot fit on the actual cartridge, but that does not apply to all games. There are obviously games it does apply to, but literally not all of them. And Sonic Racing Crossworlds is not one of those games that it applies to. So I'm very happy they made this decision, and I hope that this continues to be a decision that at least the AAA publishers choose to use. Indie developers, I know cutting corners and saving as much money on publishing is something you have to look forward to or you want to do, so game key cards may make more sense, but I'm telling you, even you indie publishers, the first one of you that dares to say, screw it, we're going to put it on a cartridge, it's going to probably sell well. Maybe it'll be Team Cherry with Silk Song. Something to think about. I think that game would sell very well as a physical cartridge. That is it, everyone. That is our show today. That is not the end of the opinions and the conversation around many of these topics. Obviously, we got to talk about the Nintendo Direct stuff, DK Bananza, the Zelda movie, and more. We have a massive, absolutely massive podcast tonight, all about the biggest topics over the last week from the Newswire. I can't wait. We have Rogers Base coming on. We have Favlam coming on. We have N64 Josh, along with our co-hosts. Of course, you have me. I am Nintendo Prime, wearing the Nintendo Byte merch, but we're not done. We have as well Thunderstash Gaming, Gamebird Classic, and the ever silent but deadly Eric Moore. It's going to be a killer show. I hope you guys all tune in. I'm going to put a link down in the description as well, right below our giveaway link, so you guys can go set your notifications. I can't tell you, this is maybe one of the most exciting episodes we have had since the launch of Switch 2, with DK Bananza tomorrow, the Zelda movie stuff, the Direct stuff. It's literally one of our biggest episodes we've done since Switch 2 came out, and arguably one of our biggest episodes of all time. So you guys got to be there. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. Thank you so much for tuning in, of course. And if I don't see you there, I will see you again tomorrow on my next video.